Good morning, guys. Welcome to another episode of Lacking Financial Education. And I don't know what episode it is at this stage, but it doesn't really matter at this moment. But it's going to be mostly about the Reserve Bank of Australia. And if you guys are not in Australia, well, you don't really know too much about this so far. But pretty much, the Treasurer Jim Chalmers has launched a scathing report into the RBA. Well, even though he's been saying the RBA has been a great institution all this time, but it has all these problems and stuff like that that it needs to be addressed and fixed right away. Now, to preface this, I believe that the RBA has done a very, very good job considering the COVID pandemic that nobody knew what was going to happen coming out of it, and I feel like this is just an opportunity for a government to blame all of its issues onto the RBA, which I think is so unfair. It's not even funny at this stage, given the fact I feel like our RBA is one of the best institutions that has a good track record and hasn't done one thing wrong, and it's doomed for basically eternity due to the government. Now, overall, Philip Lowe, of course, has been in the spotlight as well. Trying to defend himself at the same time trying to keep his job. But we'll go through a lot of the hoo ha and the hubris that's been talked about by both politicians and also as well journalists as well. You can also get the review, the RBA review. It's a long document in the comment sections below. Actually, it's going to be in the description as well. I will go briefly through it. I've taken snippets out of it and want to read the entire document. It's a 265-page document, but I really want to go through on what I got out of it and stuff like that as well, and why this is it's completely unnecessary, and why the future proofing of it doesn't actually make any difference anyway whatsoever. And I feel like it's just going to be a additional arm for the government to try and slowly set interest rates like it did back in the old days. So they wrote this report, okay, and they wrote this report overall to be like, okay, what we can do better at the RBA, okay? And I gotta say, overall, there's been a couple of things that I want to pay attention to. I really don't really care about Chapter 7, 6, 5, 4, and maybe 3 at the same time, because I gotta say, these are just a lot of hogwash. I'm gonna say right now that, it's all about buzzwords, 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 and actually isn't really doing anything, okay? And it's really not getting to the crux of the report. Now, as you can see here, if you kick open the chapter 1, the only things that they've criticized the bank for over the last 30 plus years has been the undershooting the inflation target by 0.4%, okay, so it's 1.6 instead of 2%, okay, it's lower end. Using money policy tools to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic, which I think they used all their monetary policy tools that they could have available to them, and overshooting the inflation target since 2021. And we're going to go through each and every one of those issues on just briefly of what occurred. So in episode 1, basically, Australia kept the interest rates at 1.5% for those 3 years due to the high income and high debt ratio, as Philip Lowe explains in these sections. Now, what I don't understand about this either is that they criticize him for it. Even though he justifies it in the minutes, there's justified in the charts as well. You can check on the RBA website about that as well. On the reason why he kept rates that high is to make sure that basically they don't create a environment where everyone's got high debt, and when interest rates do hike up, that everyone goes poor, and it'll be a big shock in the medium term, which actually states in there as well, 2017. Now, is it really bad to undershoot the inflation by 0.4%? It's close to the lower end of 2% over 3 years that caused some chaos later down the track. Is it that bad economically to have just slightly lower inflation than the lowest band target? Not really. There's nothing actually critically wrong with this at all. It happens at times where you don't hit your goal, but there's reasons why you don't hit your goal. Because otherwise, what's going to happen is if you fixate on that 2 and 3% for a long time, over a long period, you may cause, really, really bad economic disturbances that could lead to you missing your target later on. And I think that's very, very sad to see a bank being criticized on that as well, especially an RBA central bank that's done very, very well over the last 30 years. Okay, incredibly well with policy where basically inflation hasn't been an issue, interest rates haven't been an issue, and that's actually incredible for an economy because generally one of those two things become an issue within 10 years or so. Now, next one was using additional money policy tools in the COVID-19 environment. So you guys may know of basically during COVID-19, the RBA obviously kept interest rates low, and they didn't see it going up in 2020 for about 3 years or so. They even said that in 2021. And also at the same time, they also bought back a lot of government bonds, so government could issue money and the banks would buy it up, therefore giving the money government funds, and they also gave the government funds directly as well, so they could introduce their COVID-19 policies. Now, this is what I don't understand. Why are they being criticized for this? They did exactly what they needed to do. They said they were, they reacted in time. They needed a bit more help, I guess. They were a bit slow, but I'm confused. That's not the RBA's job to release money to you guys, okay? That's not the RBA's job to give money when you guys need it, kind of thing. Like, that's a policy decision-making job. That's not the RBA's job. The RBA should not unilaterally give money to the government to fund their policies. It's the government to make the policies to give it to them. The RBA at the end of the day is basically treasury, I suppose. Like, that's pretty much it. They shouldn't be making that decision unilaterally, okay? They should be making that decision in combination with the government. And notice this is a government report, so I've never criticized the government, okay? I've never criticized previous governments either, because it's the RBA's fault, okay? And then this leads to the third one, which is overshooting the inflationary target. Now, basically, they criticized the RBA when every other central bank, okay, we'll get through this shortly as well, every other central bank did not see this one coming whatsoever. Okay, they didn't see it coming whatsoever. Canada didn't see it coming, okay? This is one they compare it to. They say, we want to be in line with Bank of Canada. They didn't see it coming. New Zealand, they didn't see it coming either. America didn't see it coming either. So we get to the point where we're seeing a lot of none of them saw it coming, okay? But you're going to chastise the RBA for not seeing it coming, okay? Absolute joke. And the thing is, they blame the RBA for this inflationary process for the amount of money they dipped into COVID. Well, who asked them to put more money into the government coffers during COVID? The government! Because they wanted to fund JobKeeper and stuff like that. Do you think any other country was going to lend money when their own country needed money for JobKeeper and stuff like that during the COVID-19 lockdown? A one-off event that's never occurred in the history of man or the history of the modern era, where basically people can't go out to work and have to work from home for about 1 to 2 years, especially in Australia as well, where their borders were closed off? No, this hasn't happened ever. So trying to get the RBA to prepare themselves, actually refer to this as well, prepare themselves. And also, they mentioned as well that they lacked expertise under pressure, so they made wrong decisions, even though the decision was never wrong, as they said. It was the correct decision. It's like, the expertise doesn't help under judgment decisions, because it's not their decision to put more money into the economy. It's the government's decision to put more money into the economy. Because the government asks and it makes policies to do so. RBA only manages monetary policy. If you don't know what monetary policy is, it's about the inflation and interest rates. They don't manage fiscal policy. It was where that money is spent and how much money is raised, okay? That's the government's role. And you can see this with this RBA review that it all comes back as this is all a symptom of the government. And you're just like, so the RBA isn't actually doing anything wrong. It's that the government wants to intervene with the RBA, because I don't know what the government wants to do with the RBA, but they just feel like they saw a few bad mistakes and they want to get their hands in there to potentially try and set or influence interest rates again. Because every government wants to do that, because no government wants to see interest rates go up during their term in government. I mean, you can refer to John Howard as well, where he says he didn't want interest rates to go up, but they did. And various of other politicians. But I'm not sure why they want the mittens on the RBA when the RBA's done a good job, and they say they're future-proofing it, but they're not really. They're saying they're doing a great job and then making up mishmash stuff that the RBA's done wrong, even though it's like literally 3 things, and everything else has been bloody solid for the RBA. We'll go into the journalist reports as well, because I think there's some absolute porkers in there that are just, mate, you don't know what you're talking about. So this is an article from, I believe, The Conversation, made by Mr. Isaac Gross, and basically he sums up the problem of what it was. He says, while the concept of review was first viewed in 2020, the economic is in bad stage inflation, but well below the bank's target band of 2 to 3%. Dude, 1.6% is not well below, okay? You don't know what well below is, okay? It's been 1.6%. Anyways, let's keep going. As a result, wage growth was too low and unemployment too high. Okay, we want numbers here. By the way, I think wage growth being too low has been an issue for 30 plus years. And it's an issue that the RBA can't fix. Okay? It's not the RBA's issue for this one. Unemployment too high. Well, unemployment hasn't been, I think it's only been 6 or 7% in WA. And that's when mining had a big issue. that is the highest it's been. Okay, I don't think the RBA is responsible for that one either. I think it's done a very, very good job. I think it's more of the economic times than what the RBA does. The RBA can't keep people employed if the economic, like, even though it can be indirectly with interest rates, it can't keep people employed if companies aren't coming here to begin with. And so the most likely explanation is that the bank is too focused on stabilizing the financial system and too little on boosting the economy. That's the entire point of the Bank of RBA, by the way, is to stabilize the financial system. Okay, it's not to boost the economy. Okay, if it was to boost the economy, you would keep the rates at 0.25% and just go ham. Okay, that's the point. Okay, you know, I know you're a professor in economics, but you should know this. Okay, this is the thing is, if you want to boost the economy, you keep the interest rates low and go high ham, because inflation, damn it all to hell. The bank was literally setting interest rates on its gut instead of using its brain, almost in a little system sense. It was not doing what the supermodel suggested to do. I'm going to say right now that computer models is a data in, data out kind of process. So if someone could put data in as biased to a certain outcome, therefore this would come in. People have different forecasts. Economics have different forecasts. You should notice as an economist writing for a news article is that different economists have different ideas and different ideals, basically saying where it's going to go next or not. You'll find that no 100% economists will ever agree with each other on certain areas, okay? There's going to be like 90%, 95%, but it'll never be 100% agreement because they have different strokes. And I agree with the RBA, given the fact the RBA writes its minutes on a website, it also gives its charts on the website, it also has all its resources on the website, that it actually considered its brain and not setting it by its gut. But considering the fact that they've got it right for mostly 30 years, unless their gut's been very good for 30 years, I think they've been using logic and using charts and stuff like that as well. And you can actually find it on their website, the charts that they use, the data that they use, and also the minutes they use as well. So I feel like this article was written in extremely bad faith. The underlying board was populated by money policy amateurs rather than experts remained the same. And now figures reflect that's too high. The inflation is too high. I'm going to say money policy amateurs. If amateurs did this, like 30 years of good work, and it's only had one issue with inflation, you'd say that they just keep them on. Okay, just keep them on. They're obviously better than the experts. Like, you know, they're obviously better than the experts at this stage. Why do we need to replace them? And also, as well, I did a bit of research. And I did a bit of research into the RBA board. I also did a bit of research into the Federal Reserve of US. And conveniently, the fact that the Federal Reserve and the RBA share expertises. They're all experts in the same similar areas. But the RBA has been criticised, but the Reserve Bank's been hailed. And so it's also Bank of Canada. Like I say, all these people are just public servants with economic degrees. Some of them. And some of them, to be fair, do not be relating to Jerome Powell. But he's been in the Carlyle group, so he's been in the actual system. And they're talking like, these people aren't experts. God, most of these people have been in companies, like executive in companies and finance and economic stuff. Like they're qualified to do this. It's not like they're not qualified to do this. They are. That's why they're in the RBA. So, like, the review concluded that monetary policy is a complex area of public policy best run by a team of experts who are highly informed about the current state of the economy. The RBA have been very good about it, highly informed altogether. Like, if you check their website, they have all these charts, minutes and stuff like that, all the stuff they've gone through to show you what they've been talking about. They're informed, they're obviously expert in the area, and have done a very, very good job. Just as we have the country's smartest legal minds on the High Court, like I say right now, we don't. We don't, okay? No public area body always has the smartest people on there, okay? Some people don't want to be on the High Court, okay? Some people don't want to be there. That's why they go into journalism and whatever it is. They just don't want to be there. And also, our best practitioner is setting vaccine policy. Mate, that vaccine policy was absolute fucking shambles, okay? Like, you know, absolute shambles until we got something together, okay? That was pretty much it. Like, it was absolutely crazy. Do not say that our vaccine policy has been, you know, the best at setting it. It was just like higgledy-piggledy things. It's seemingly you guys are making up on the fly, but you got to give them a bit of a, you know, a lax off. But you're not going to give the RBA a bit of a lax off. I mean, come on, like you can't say this, Isaac. Okay, you can't say this at all. The lack of reliance where it made us ill-stated decision rates to indicate that interest rates would remain near 0%. Dude. Every other bank economist, including Macquarie Bank, Commonwealth Bank, NAB, at some point, said that interest rates weren't going to rise between 2023 to 2024, okay? That was not unusual, okay? Like, they said late 2023 that they expect interest rates to rise, okay? It was not unusual, okay? And just an FYI, that comment was made in 2021, okay? Where, COVID was tapering out to the edge, okay? That's why they made that decision, okay? It wasn't like now, where it's like, oh, it's not going to raise anytime soon, okay? No, it was made in 2021. And a lot of other banks tipped this as well. So don't blame the RBA for this one, because a lot of the private sector said the same thing too. Even though personally I thought the market was overinflated in 2021, I'm not going to blame the RBA for saying otherwise, okay? That's like blaming, that's like saying that someone has to be fixed because they got something wrong, okay? It's okay to make mistakes. During the pandemic, bank staff explicitly recommended against forecasting how long interest rates would remain at zero. Why would you be forecasting this stuff? Like, honestly, why would you be forecasting about how long interest rates going to stay at zero? Because, they're going to go up eventually. Like, I'm going to say, I don't see why this is an issue whatsoever. And basically, the RBA, whose job is to, monetary policy, by the way, basically notified set a 3-year projection of how long rates would stay low. So, in other words, basically, the bank staff here, now what I'm going to say now with bank staff, this is talking about private banks, they shouldn't be sending these forecasts and stuff like that at all, okay? However, the RBA, who's managing monetary policy, needs to, okay? That's the difference, the key difference. When the economy recovered far quicker than expected and they had to rise, many interpreters had about a face as a broken promise. Yeah, most of them did interpret it as a broken promise. And yes, they can be right about this. It's the only thing the RBA's done wrong, okay, is that they said that rates weren't going to rise, and they rose within, I think 2 to 3 months, I suppose. Or started rising, or hints of rising as well. So, yeah. And, they've also got, when the rain pours as well. So you can see here, RBA's failure to cut rates may have cost 270,000 jobs, okay? This is a projection and a forecast that really should... Okay, you can see you guys right now, with these people who are saying these forecasts, you got to be very, very careful, because sometimes this is actually not reality. This is like, looking back in 2020 vision, which is, like I say, right now with monetary decision is naturally impossible. So I thought I would, take a look at the, obviously the RBA. Okay, so basically one claim that was made in that article was that they were filled with non-monetary experts. Now let's just go through here. This is just a brief overview, okay? So basically, as you can see here, he's been on a lot of financial boards, okay, Philip Lowe. You can actually go through to his thing here, and you can see he has a honors in economics and ecocentric. Yeah, apparently, guy's not a monetary expert, but even though he has a PhD in fucking economics, and also has done a lot of monetary policy and financial stability, and he was governor. So this guy, I gotta say right now, Philip Lowe is a pretty big expert in economics. Okay, remember, guys, these are guys non-economic experts. Okay, maybe it's not their economic experts, but that's behind me. So go to Michelle Bullock, okay? Michelle Bullock as well. Also, I believe she doesn't obviously have a university degree, but she's been in a lot of payments and stuff like that, commissions where basically they deal in economic pressures and stuff like that as well, where they dealt in currency, business services, and the financial system. So got a lot of experience there as well. And also has been in the RBA for quite a bit as well. And also economics. And also an honours in University of New England for economics as well. Which is a bit confusing that they were saying that there's not any financial or economic experts in here, but there is. Now, we got Mike Barnaby, okay, who's been an auditor in Fortescue, been an independent director in Fortescue, GLX, also investment committee on HBF, which also, I can tell you right now, HBF, these health insurance funds, have to invest their money into their economy, and also would have some access to economic figures, and were able to go through this as well. And also, as you can see here, that he's been doing investment banking and finance, which pay attention to his economic figures and have meetings like this, like myself, with investment committee, for years and years on end. So saying that he's unqualified as well is pretty a broad statement here as well. Now, you got to see people who aren't really qualified, and you probably could see, I gotta say right now, potentially political appointments. Now, I gotta say, Wendy Craig is probably not qualified to be on the board, okay? But it's probably more, I gotta say right now, you can see why, what she's on the board for, and that's for the remuneration. So what the banks are paid for, basically, as well. So you don't have to be qualified, because she's not making decisions at the end of the day. Now, same thing here. Don't have to be qualified for it. This seems to be a political appointment as well. Now, this guy, I gotta say right now, Board of Taxation, he's the secretary to Australian Treasury, so basically he's Mr. Chalmers' person. Now we've got Carl Schwartz and we've got Alison Watkins, who are both all on remuneration, and also she's been on audit committee. She's been a non-executive director for CSL and Wesfarmers, which are the two biggest companies in Australia, and they would have definitely looked at economic projections as well, especially with their own company performance as well. Now this one as well, I feel like this is a more political appointment as well. Everyone in that remuneration committee seems to be a person who has no economic expertise whatsoever. Okay, but everyone else who's in the economic space has a lot of economic expertise, and to say that they have no experience in monetary policy is also misleading, and there's also bad journalism. You could have just done a simple search, and you would have seen that the ones who are in remuneration don't have much idea, but the ones who are actually advising the people with monetary policy actually have an idea. Now let's go to American system, by the way. So we go to Jerome Powell, okay? Jerome Powell basically has, if you read through this quickly as well, he's been part of the Carlyle group, has been mostly in politics and stuff like that as well. He kind of has the same experience as Philip Lowe. In fact, probably slightly less experience, okay? Slightly less experience, okay? Now we go to Michael S. Barr, who's a supervision as well. You can see here, same sort of thing, that he's just been in the political system for a long time. Done this as well. Okay, and he's also a law clerk, okay? So you're saying, like, this person's a law clerk and is the Reserve Bank, you know, the journalists would have a fit if they saw him in the RBA. Like, absolute fit. And you can see here as well, similar story here. That's been into public service. Now let's get to the lovely fellas at the Bank of Canada. Okay, joined the bank, became whatever. Economic made chief, support appointed advisor. Okay, he was deputy support minister. So he's basically been through the system as well. Okay, there's, like I say right now, there's no real difference between the RBA's people and the Canadians or the Americans. Same thing is here, basically. Secretary General, more like, it's just more of the same thing, that they've been in the public system for quite a bit, and they've also had some private company experience. So, CFO, CEO of a private company, works in the financial services sector as well. A lot of these people have, and she's also a chartered accountant. Now, I'm going to say, these are the similar backgrounds of all the people in the RBA, okay? And to say that that's not the case is a bit ridiculous, okay? Bit ridiculous to say that the RBA have non-monetary experts making stuff on their gut, when every single person in these banks that I've just showed you, that the heads and stuff like that, are all economic majors, done a lot of economics in their time. They've worked in economics for a long time, and to say that they're not qualified is crazy, and just just makes me have a headache. Now, last but not least, after all going through all of that, okay, I hope you have a bit broader, mind, I suppose, on like that discussion that just then. And you probably realize that most of this RBA stuff is just full of hogwash. It's just full of shit. Like, honestly, it is probably one of the worst things I've seen from, obviously, the journalistic point of view. Just parrot everything the government says. And also, the report's probably not worth the paper it's written on. It's literally making a mountain out of a molehill on the RBA, okay, which is not true whatsoever. In fact, I don't think there's any problems with the RBA as it's running currently. You can add more people on, and that's about it. But I gotta say, I just feel like the government's doing something here. Like, it's trying to change something, or trying to point more jobs to the boys on here as well, because you can see there's been clearly some political appointments on there, as you got people who have no idea on economics being a part of the remunerations committee. Overall, I'd say, I'd support a few of the changes, obviously adding more people on. Given the fact that they're not going to be political appointments, which is going to be unlikely. But like I say, I feel like leaving it as it is, or maybe adding more people to the board, like, adding 2 or 3 more people on the board would be fine. But I would say not getting rid of its interest rate setting powers is probably stupid, to be honest, given the fact that it hasn't really done much wrong whatsoever. And you've only highlighted 3 episodes in the past 30 years, and also some of the episodes are just ridiculous. It's not even on the RBA for it in the first place. Like I can say, for example, like episode 1, not even that bad. Episode 2, that's not the RBA's decision, it's the government's decision. They don't do fiscal policy, they only do monetary policy. And asking them to do the fiscal policy's job for the government is ridiculous when it's the government's fault for it as well. And some may go, oh, but there's different governments. It was the Morrison government that did all this monetary supply, JobKeeper and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, that call was made, obviously, by the Morrison government. But that call was also made by the Labour government. The Labour government wanted to double it, or, increase by more. So, in fact, in a way, they actually supported these changes and wanted more, compared to, not what the RBA could handle, but what the coalition government wanted. So, in other words, they are also responsible for this environment as well, where, the episode 2, where basically they got mad at the RBA for the inflation targets, even though it was their fiscal policy that caused it. You can't blame the RBA for this, okay? when you should have known and known better as well, because they would have provided you some sort of information that inflation was going to increase from it, which they did. Don't say they didn't, because they did. They didn't know when though, and missing the when by a bit is harder, to implicate, because all forward-looking statements, especially in financial planning, are always, always written with disclaimer. This may not happen in reality, kind of thing. Okay, you can't blame the RBA for that. Okay, that's like blaming your financial advisor because one share went up to $50, even though everyone was tipping against it. Basically, you can't blame them for it. Okay, it happens. Okay. Anyways, guys, if you guys liked the video, like, comment, subscribe. If you guys didn't enjoy the video, well, don't like it, I guess. If you guys want to, talk about your opinions in the comments, feel free to do so. I'm out of here. I feel like this entire episode's overblown. I feel like pretty much the RBA, just if you want to just fix it up, just add a few more people on the board if you feel that's an issue, and that's pretty much it. Because I agree with Philip Lowe. He's never going to keep his job, by the way. So I don't know if you're watching this, don't bother. Just let it all out, okay? Because you're not keeping your job. Because Chalmers doesn't want you. It's fucking clear as day, man. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Have a good one, guys. See ya.